Hello, welcome to more yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you're doing well. And yeah, if you're not, maybe you'll feel a bit better after this. As you can see, I have some implements of not torture, but massage today. You will need either a dowel or a foam roller or a water bottle or something like that. If you don't have anything like that, although I'm pretty sure y'all have a water bottle at home, you could use a ball just as easily. This is one of those harder sort of balls, but a tennis ball would work as well. And what we're going to do today is get into the forearms a little bit. So often when I am teaching yoga in person, which isn't actually all that often these days, but hopefully more and more often soon, I see people set up with their hands, with their fingers spread, are not spread very much at all, and no activation really through the fingers, and poses like cat and cow, or more importantly, downward facing dog, when we're bearing a lot of weight on our hands. And with that sort of lack of activation, it means that you end up crunching into the bones in the wrists quite a bit more. So what we're going to do is try to loosen up the muscles of the forearms. It's all connected, right? Loosen up the muscles of the forearms to then activate them so that when we come to a weight bearing pose on the hands, we'll really spread those fingers open. We'll create a lot more space in the wrist and a lot more activation through the muscles that will protect the wrist, right? And it seems funny. You think, oh, like, what do the fingers have to do it? They don't have fingers don't have any muscles in them. Well, you're right, but it's the muscles that control the fingers, right? Through the palm and through the forearm that we need to activate. But sometimes they're a little bit tight, so first we'll loosen them up. That was a lot of chit chat. Sorry about that. Grab what you need. I always have blocks, etc. handy as well. And then I'm going to sit up on just the chip foam block just to give myself a little bit of lift. You can sit however you want to. You could have your legs that stretched. You could do like crisscross legs. You could be up on your shins. Just somewhere where you can find length through your spine, a little bit of a release through the hips. And then once you've found your position, I know some days we need a little bit more time to find a position where we can be still. For 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. And exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. And then continue breathing however feels best for you. Ideally, in and out through your nose. It slows the breath. It doesn't dry out your throat. But breathe however you need to, especially if you're stuffed up. And then notice if you're holding any excess tension anywhere in the body. And try to let it go a little bit more. With each inhale, imagine your spine lengthening from your tailbone all the way up to the crown of your head. With each exhale, maybe feel a gentle softening of the front body. Right, so they're not bracing to find the length, but we're also not slouching or slumping. Last few moments here. And then slowly start to flicker open your eyes. And then just make some gentle wrist circles. Your hands could be down low, they could be in front, they could be overhead, doesn't really matter. Just a little bit of opening. And then make sure that you go the opposite direction as well, right? We tend to always circle one way, go the other way too. And then with your elbows bent, bring your forearms in front of you, palms face up, and then down. So pronation and supination. And what it is it's not really the wrists they're turning here, right? It's the ulna and the radius that are doing a little bit of rotation at the elbow. Right? We have quite a bit more movement this way at the elbow than we do at the knee, for instance. Last couple here. Doesn't really seem like much, but don't worry. All right, shake it all out. Unwind your legs. Let's meet on hands and knees. So sitting up with knees underneath your hips, toes can be tucked or untucked, and then hands outer shoulder width apart or wider. And then just notice how your hands are set up. Are your fingers spread wide? Are they quite close together? Are they really active? Are they really passive? How does it feel into your wrists? Right? Just notice. We're not going to change it now. This is exhibit A.1. And then let's start to move through cat and cow. So inhale, lift the tailbone, hollow through your lower back. Wrap the shoulder blades toward each other into cow. And then exhale, tuck your tailbone under, round through the spine. Really press the floor away from you into cat. And then inhale, slowly ripple into cow. And then exhale, round into cat. So a few more of these undulations on your own time, on your own breath. Right, just getting into the spine, the torso, the hips, the shoulders. And maybe there's some other movement that would feel really good here. So feel free to add on or freestyle through cat and cow. Getting into any areas that might feel a little bit tighter than others in your body. All right, and then come back to center. Again, make sure your hands haven't migrated towards each other, so the hands are still outer shoulder width apart or wider. Spread your fingers wide, tuck your toes, and then exhale, lift your hips up and back into your downward facing dog. So here you can pedal the heels toward the floor a little bit, releasing into the backs of the legs. You could wag your tail from side to side, getting into the lateral body. Couple more breaths of movement, and then I would like you to find a few breaths of stillness here in downward facing dog. See how it feels. Hug the upper arm bones toward each other. How does it feel in the wrists, in the hands, in the forearms in particular? Does it feel strong? Does it feel strained? Maybe it feels both ways. It doesn't matter. I just want you to observe. Last breath here. On your inhale, ripple forward into your high plank. You might need to adjust where you are on your mat. Squeeze your bum, squeeze the tops of your thighs. By all means, your knees can be on the earth if you prefer. Last couple breaths here. Downward facing dog was exhibit 8.2. This is 8.3. Just see how it feels on your wrists. And then exhale, lower your knees to the earth if they aren't there already. I'm going to turn to face you. And then come up onto your fingertips on both hands. Now, ideally, you don't want to have your hands on the floor like I do. You want them to be on your mat where it's a little bit stickier. So maybe actually I'll turn back. Little draw of belly button to spine. And I want you to flick fingertips on one hand toward each other. It doesn't matter which one you start with. But I want you to imagine that you're really trying to dig through the mat. And that's the action that brings the fingers together, right? So it's not fluffy. It's really quite active. Like a cat trying to claw. Okay, and then give that hand a break. Other hand. claw, 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 right? Really sort of vigorous motion down and towards each other. All right, and then can you do both hands at the same time? It takes a little bit more core work. Okay, and then pause. Keep the fingers spread wide. Keep that action of trying to draw the fingers toward each other, except you're going to slowly start to lower the heel of the hand and the palm towards the earth. Do you feel that activation through the palms, through the forearms, that lift in the palm, right? There's like a little pocket, hasta bandha, right? That little lift means that you're really working through the wrists. Okay, and then shake out the wrist, do some tennis sort of circles if you want to. All right, and then come back to hands and knees. We're going to start to turn the fingers out. Now, how far you go depends on sort of how your bones connect, right? This might be where you stop. Maybe they turn around a little bit more. Maybe they point backwards, and I'm hypermobile, so don't worry about where my fingers are. You could bend your elbows, you could straighten them, you could do circles here. Right? Even if your fingers can go all the way back, maybe it feels interesting to take them sideways and do the same sort of movement. Just slowly loosening up into the wrists, into the forearms. All right, and then come back to center. Give your hands a little shake. And then we're going to come onto the back of the hands with the fingertips pointing toward each other in the center. Now, here you might need to bend your elbows a little bit more. Give your wrists a little bit of a break. You could even come all the way down and then press up to fists. Maybe with the fingers spread wide, you're able to keep the elbows straight-ish and do that little rock side to side or circles. It can feel quite tight, so don't work through pain, right? Don't feel like, oh, you have to be a hero and have the elbows straight. You bend your elbows a little bit. It's all good. All right. And then slowly come back, shake out your hands, and then step to the top edge of your mat into your standing forward fold. Give the hands, the wrist a little bit of a break. You could sway a little bit from side to side. You could clasp opposite elbows with hands. Maybe you want more support today. You can rest your elbows on your knees. Go where you need to go. All right. And then release. Slowly start to bend your knees. Come back down to hands and knees because I totally forgot to use the dowel while we were down here on hands and knees. So here we go. Grab your dowel or your ball, and what we're going to do is we're going to use these tools to get into the muscles of the forearm, because often if you have wrist pain, right, that's the victim, right? The victim cries out, not the culprit. So the culprit is usually this muscle group, right, on the forearm. If you do this thumbs up, you can and move the thumb, you can sort of feel the muscle along the radius. Anyway, that's the one that often gets quite crunchy. So we're going to try and find that muscle by flipping your forearm over and onto either your dowel or your ball, whatever you're using. And just do little movements, right? Up and down. You don't want to do big pastry rolls here, right? You're not going all the way up and all the way down. You want to find little niggly spots that are tight. It might be closer to the wrist. It might be closer up to the elbow. And you could do a little bit side to side. It's a bit tricky to get onto this muscle. You can do this against the wall. Sometimes that's a little bit easier. But a few more breaths here, just really getting into the muscles on the back of the forearm. And you can rock side to side and get into the other muscles as well. My dowel keeps slipping, so I'm going to move it onto my mat. Because through Christmas break, I didn't do any yoga, and then I had COVID, so I didn't do any yoga. And man, it feels tight when I have my hands on the floor, right? I'm bearing weight on my hands. So maybe you're like me. All right. And then come back off for a moment. Do some up and down massages, and then just down. Flush it out. And then a couple breaths, eyes closed or open. Just feel what you feel. Notice whatever you notice from one side to the other. Might not feel like a huge difference. Maybe you notice a wild difference between the two sides. All right, and then let's go back, all right, to the opposite side. So again, you want to flip. If you're using the ball, you can get kind of a little bit more motion, but then you might fall off the ball like I just did. So again, finding these little spots. You can add weight, you can take weight off. Right? I want it to be pain-free, though it will feel uncomfortable. Finding these little spots and making quite subtle rocks back and forth on the dowel to get into these tight spots. Making sure that you try the entire length of your forearm, from your elbow to your wrist. Last few moments here. Again, you can rock side to side or, get different angles. Sometimes you might just need to rest it. Whew. And sometimes one side will feel quite a bit tighter than the other, which is definitely something that I'm experiencing at the moment. All right, and then move your dowel or your ball off to the side. Come back, take those up and down sort of motions with the knife edge of the other hand. And then just down. And then again, pause and just breathe and notice whatever you notice. All right, make your way back into your standing forward fold. Bring your fingertips to your shins on your inhale, little partway lift. Back of the neck stays long. Exhale, let it all go. 2 more, just like that. And then bend your knees, tuck your chin into your chest. Slowly start to roll up to standing. 1 vertebra at a time. As low as you need to go till eventually you come all the way up to standing. Take a little wiggle or shake out our loops of your shoulders, up, back, and down. All right, so we've loosened up, we've mobilized through the wrists, the hands, the forearms. Now we're going to start to strengthen it. Okay, so bring your arms in front of you. All right, as soon as we go into this, we sort of go into this sort of zombie position with the hips forward to counterbalance. I want you to squeeze your bum, bring your arms back, socketed into your shoulders, and then start to flick your fingers. So the opposite motion that we were doing on the mat, right? Flick the fingers away rather than towards each other. A little squeeze of the bum. And then single hand clapping. And then overhead, flick, 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 flick. You can have a little shrug of the shoulders here if you want to, or shoulders down, whatever feels best for you. So long as you're not just really compromising the space between your ears and your shoulders. Single hand clapping. You might start to feel it now. I'm doing it with you. Belly button just fine. Okay, arms out to the side, flick. And if you haven't done this kind of work in a long time, it might feel really quite interesting right now. Clap, right? As fast as you can, might be slowing down from where we were at the start. Last little bit, overhead, and clap, and then pause. And then slowly Start to lower your arms down by your sides. Palms can be up or down at the moment. Slowly letting the blood flow. Return to normal. All right, if your eyes are closed, flicker them open, shake everything out. Firing up the muscles of the forearms. Maybe you felt that just now. Okay, bring the backs of the hands together and just press them toward each other a little bit. Just getting a little bit of a release. And then hands in prayer, same thing. You might kind of hyperextend into the prayer or just, and then shake everything out. All right. This next thing is a little bit awkward and it doesn't work for everybody. So let's see how it goes. Take your feet outer shoulder width apart or wider. Feet turned out slightly or a lot. We're going to go into squat, but before we go there, I want you to cross your arms. Bring your hands behind, or your wrists behind your knees, and then start to come into the squat. And what this does is it puts a little bit of traction on those wrists and helps to separate and bring space. Now, I know the not deep squat isn't where everyone wants to be. So you could take a wider squat and rather than crossing the arms, bring your hands behind. And if that doesn't work at all, you could just bring your wrists to your hips and then use the weight of your belly to press in. So last couple of breaths, wherever you need to be. Maybe you think of tracking the knees out wider to give a little tug on those arms, a little bit more traction on those wrists. All right, and then stand up, shake out your arms, shake out your wrists. One last time. Bring your arms forward. We won't be here as long, I promise. Start to flick. And clap. Overhead, flick. And clap. Out to the side, flick. Clap. Last time, overhead. And clap. Last 10, 9, 5, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Slowly lower your arms back down to your sides. Shake it all out. Make your way back to the top edge of your mat if you've moved. Inhale, sweep the arms up to the sky. Exhale, melt to the earth. Forward fold. Fingertips to shins. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. Bend your knees, plant your hands, step back to downward facing dog. All right. So fingers spread wide. Grip the mat with the finger pads. How does downward facing dog feel now? Right? Exhibit B. Does it feel stronger? Does it feel like you have more space even? Because now that we have lengthened the forearms as well as fired them up, you should hopefully be feeling at least a minuscule improvement in the downward facing dog, if not a big improvement. All right, on your inhale, ripple forward to high plank. Again, either from your toes or from your knees. Squeeze your bum, squeeze the tops of the thighs. Draw the lower ribs to the sky. How does this feel? Better? Worse? Same? Different? And then exhale, lower your knees to the earth if they aren't already there. Just come to your normal hands and knees. Hopefully, you're not feeling any crunching into the wrists. All right, and then take your knees wide, send your hips back, release into your child's pose. You could stack your hands underneath your forehead, or maybe you bring a pillow or a block underneath your upper body. Maybe your forehead reaches the earth. You could wrap your arms around your body, or even just bend the elbows, bring the palms of the hands underneath your shoulders, kind of like chicken wings. Breaths just to allow everything to settle. And then come back up. Shift your hips on one side. Swing your legs forward. Let's get one little chest opener before we come down to the earth. Fingers spread wide and pointing back behind you. Wrap your elbows, your shoulder blades toward each other. Lift your heart up to the sky. This might be enough if you'd like to deepen it. Press into the hands and feet to shift your hips forward, but back down on the earth. And then wrap your elbows, your shoulder blades toward each other. Really press your pointer finger, knuckle mounds down into the earth to lift the heart up. Opening through the chest and shoulders. Hopefully releasing some of the tension that might have built up there through the vigorous exercising of the forearms, which isn't something we really do all that often, right? Even if you're lifting weights, we don't ever really target the forearms. Obviously, grip strength comes in a lot of ways, but not the back of the forearm. All right, bend your elbows, shake out your arms, and then make your way down to the mat. You could do a Pilates style roll down. You could use your hands on the backs of your thighs, or you might just flop back. Once you're down, draw your knees into your chest and take a little rock from side to side. And take your right arm out to the side. Maybe you shift your hips right a little bit to start with, and then exhale, lower your knees to the left for a twist. Any variation of twist that you'd like to take. These could be stacked, maybe single leg twist or cross legs. You could always bring a block underneath your bottom knee or between your thighs. And you might look along your right arm just to finish off the spiral in the neck. And then slowly on your inhale, return to center, reset your pelvis and your spine. And then take your twist to the opposite side. So maybe shift the hips left a little bit to start with, and then exhale, lower your knees to the right. Again, it can be any variation of twist, and it doesn't need to be the same one on this side that you did on the first. So those of you who really like to practice handstand or any other arm balancing things in yoga, or even handstand push-ups or normal push-ups at the gym, if you're able to take the time to do even one round of that finger flicking, one hand clapping exercise to fire up the muscles of the forearms first, you might find that you'll have greater strength and also endurance through those exercises later on. Once or twice a week. Last breath here. All right, inhale, return to center, and then make your way into your final resting pose, which could be flat on your back, legs bent, or straight in Shavasana. It might even feel nice to bring your palms to the floor underneath your bum and just allow the weight of your bum to get some more traction into the wrist. You could rest on your side or child's pose or a seated meditation. And there's no rush to get there. But once you have found your pose of rest, for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. And exhale, sigh your breath away. A couple more. And then let go of your breath control. Let go of any last muscle gripping or tension. And with each exhale, let your body melt a little bit deeper into the earth. Stay here longer if you can, 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.